Broadcasting from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio, inside the Gas South Convention Center in Duluth, Georgia, it's time for Gwinnett Business Radio. Gwinnett Business Radio is presented by Regions Bank. Start building your financial confidence at Regions Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing member.
Greetings and salutations, wonderful listeners of Gwinnett Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studios inside the beautiful Gas South District Convention Center. Welcome to a special edition of Gwinnett Business Radio. It is a special edition because we are here to highlight a very special event that is happening at the Gas South Convention Center on November 2nd, 2024. It is the 10th anniversary of the Lee Haney Games. With me to my right is my trusty co-host, who is like a kid in a candy store because we are both very excited to interview our guests. So first, I have to welcome Harper LaBelle.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's stop talking about me and let's get right to Lee.
Because
Lee is the man.
Lee is the man. Lee Haney, Lee Haney is here. He is with the Lee Haney Games. If you don't know who Lee Haney is, well, I'm glad you're here so that you can listen to Lee. I just want to do a quick intro and bio. Lee Haney is widely regarded as one of the greatest professional bodybuilders of all time. He is the winner of Mr. Olympia for 8 consecutive years from 1984 to 1991. He shares the all-time record for most Mr. Olympia titles and was the youngest to ever win it at age 24. And when he did, it sounded a little bit like this.
The new Mr. Olympia, a big hand for Lee Haney.
He retired from professional bodybuilding after the 8 straight Mr. Olympia titles. That doesn't mean he went away. Since then, he has had a TV show. He has done various wonderful business ventures. He's involved in a lot of community efforts. President Bill Clinton appointed Lee as chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, a role that he served from 1999 to 2002. In 2014, he was inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame. And he's sitting across from us in the Gwinnett Business RadioX studios. Lee Haney, welcome to our show.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. The Lee Haney Games. You are here to promote the Lee Haney Games. It is the 10th anniversary. It is being held here in the Gas South District Convention Center. Tell everybody about the event and what they can expect and why they should attend.
Well, we're extremely excited for this year's event. 10 years. It's an event that we have athletes that come from all over the United States. We have the figure competition for the ladies, bikini competition. We have the wellness competitions. We have the men's physique, men's bodybuilding, name it in the way of fitness, in the world of fitness. We got it. And we're very proud of this event. It's a national qualifier under the sanction of the National Physique Committee. And our event is such that if you qualify, win your class, you then can go on to compete in the national event, which is called the NPC Nationals. And if you win in that particular event or placed in the top 2, you can then turn pro. So this is a big deal for a lot of amateur athletes.
Yeah.
So we got people coming from everywhere.
Yeah. And this is something that you have been pouring your energies into. This is the 10th annual, but obviously you've been involved before that in a lot of these qualifying events. The people who are competing, is there an age range that we're going to see? Is this something that, hey, this is something I want to pursue professionally, and this is like the first step? But also, I would imagine there are also people who are like, no, I just enjoy competing. I'm competing for competing's sake. Talk a little bit about the spectrum of age and skill level that people will see.
Yes, we cover every age group, other than teens. Okay. We don't have the teenage divisions, but we have first timers. We call them novice, true novice. Then we have the open divisions, and we also have master divisions for people 40 and over, 50 and over. Matter of fact, one of the gentlemen in our show last year, he was 80, and this cat looks great, abs and the whole 9 yards. So it's something that people get out and enjoy. And if it's something on your bucket list that you've been thinking about doing, then guess what? You can jump into the games. We help with prepping people and so forth. Matter of fact, last night on my Instagram Live, I gave some prep tips and so forth to help the athletes become their best when they hit the stage.
And for those that just want to watch, ticket availability. Let us know about, do you go online or do you have to show up here at the arena? What's the best way for folks that want to be involved from a spectator?
Okay,
standpoint?
you can go online and purchase tickets, or you can do them once you reach here at the arena. You can go to LeeHaneyGames.com. If you want to compete, you can register there on the website, or you can purchase your tickets, or you can also get your hotel accommodations. Yes.
And that's LeeHaneyGames.com, LeeHaney Games.com. There's also, we're Gwinnett Business Radio, so let's talk about the business aspect of it as well. There's also some vendors that are going to be here. So this is an event not only for the competitors, but businesses that are involved in bodybuilding and wellness. Talk about that.
Yes, that's very important. Matter of fact, we have some awesome sponsors that's been a part of our event all of the years. Our biggest sponsor is High Tech Pharmaceuticals. They're located here in the Gwinnett area. First class operation. They do a great job. We've also had people like Allen Vision Ford to be a part of our event. We have Bay and Associates attorney group as part of our event. So just going down the line, we have a lot of great support there. And our event, it falls under our 501c3. I have an organization called Haney's Harvest House, which is a nonprofit in which we set up a mentoring program for boys. So we're very proud of that, and that helped to raise funds for this particular organization that we have. Matter of fact, one of our young men, he's one of the commanders at a NATO facility located in Poland.
Oh, wow.
So that's one of the kids that came through from 8-year-old on up. So we're proud of ourselves and, impacting the lives of young men. That's what the whole deal is all about.
So I would imagine, Lee, you've got all when most people think bodybuilding, muscle fitness, the whole 9 yards with that, it's a very limited goal. It's the one guy that he's bigger than everybody else. But really, you can incorporate beginners, as you mentioned. You mentioned the girls. There's plenty of room for fitness there. You've got, I'm just talking about the vendors. You have nutrition, food, experience, and knowledge that can be shared to how do I get started, clothing, equipment that you would need. There's a whole gambit of different areas that I would imagine that can be touched just by this particular section of a market that you're a part of.
Yes, it's a whole community type of event. I've just talked to one of our State Farm representatives this morning. They're going to be part of the event. And yes, we have clothing companies that will be vendors in the event. So it runs the whole gambit. Everybody that's involved in business, if you want to be a part of this deal, you can register. And we're still taking vendors even to this point. So yes, it's something for everybody.
Could Steven find someone that would sell him the suit that you wore while you were competing for Mr. Olympia? I know it's not a whole lot of fabric.
That's
but
more like eBay,
Steven,
or that's more of an auction site.
Yeah,
well, yeah. Go ahead.
To tell the truth, we will have people who sell this type of, I guess you would call it equipment.
It's fashion. Yeah, it's equipment,
it's
right?
fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. Lee Haney is with us. He is here to represent the Lee Haney Games. You can get your tickets at LeeHaneyGames.com. 10th anniversary, November 2nd, 2024, here at the Gas South District Convention Center. Lee, if we can just have a conversation about your story, because your story is definitely a story about you starting out, getting to Mr. Olympia, but there's also so much more to the story after you retired from professional bodybuilding. But let's go back to the beginning. You're originally from Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Yes.
And we were having some fun talking before the show and talking about magazine racks. And Harper, I'm going to give you credit because you called it the social media of the time, going to the magazine racks and picking up bodybuilding stuff. When did you first get the itch? When did you first kind of notice? Because we had conversations about 9-year-olds with scrawny arms, but talk a little bit about the beginning, specifically with bodybuilding, because it wasn't the only thing you were doing at the time.
Yeah, it wasn't. But, as a kid growing up, you watch the movies like Hercules and you read the biblical character of Samson. And, that was me as a kid, wanted to be Hercules and Samson growing up. And I asked my parents when I was 10 years old if they would get me a set of weights for Christmas. And, of course, they did. And it all began there, man. I would read everything I could get my hands on. As soon as we went to the grocery store, I would rush to the newsstand to open up the magazines and try to emulate some of the exercise program, the nutrition that was made available as far as the information. And next thing you know, it started to happen. So by the time I was 16 years old, I competed in my first competition, which was the Mr. South Carolina. You know, here I am, a 16-year-old standing on stage with grown men. Of course, I didn't place well, and but I was told I had a lot of potential. So that's where the love first began there.
I imagine between 9, 10, and 16, there was some growth where somebody must have said to you, dude, you're looking big. You know, you're athletically. I would imagine it helps everything in sports, right? To be stronger, faster,
Yes.
quicker. So your football improved, basketball, track, baseball, whatever you played, and it can for any athlete, can't it?
Yes, it made a huge difference. I never will forget this one guy when I joined the YMCA. I was about 16 years old then, and he looked at me and he said, "Kid, you have a physique that could transform into one of the best bodies in the world as far as bodybuilding." Of course, he was a weightlifter himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was, much older than I was, but he saw the potential. And I told him, I said, well, a few years or so later, having trained there, had a chance to play football on a scholarship to Livingstone College in North Carolina.
Oh, okay, great.
And so I told him I was heading out to play football, and he looked at me and said, well, I'm happy for you. You got the scholarship to play football. He said, but I just really feel bodybuilding is for you. And I went to Livingstone, but before summer practice had ended, I returned back home and I met with my guidance counselor. His name was James Pee Wee Lambert. And I said, Mr. Lambert, sir, if there was a way for me to still get my education, because that was important to me. My mom only had a second grade education. My dad made it to the 8th grade. So I said, if there was a way for me to get my education and to continue to pursue my love of bodybuilding, I would love to do that. And he says to me, Lee, if it's the last thing we do, we're going to find some money for you to get your education. And he made several phone calls, and I was able to receive what is called a basic education opportunity grant, which allowed me to then forego the football scholarship and go to Spartanburg Methodist College, junior college, and get my education, which I have a degree in juvenile corrections. And that was a huge turning point in my life. I was able to pursue bodybuilding, and guess what? Won the Teenage America that year. And the year following, I placed 4th in the Mr. USA as a 20-year-old. So Mr. Lambert had a huge impact on my life, and it sort of pushed me in that direction as to who I am today. So it made a huge difference, having people that support you, that believe in you, and then you being able to pursue the dream that's really in your heart. So my heart, I love football, but bodybuilding was my passion.
But your education and your wisdom at
That's
a 16 to 20-year-old, the wisdom that you had to be able to take it to the next level. This is important to me. I have several things that are important to me. My bodybuilding and my training is one of those, but my education being another. A lot of guys or a lot of people have a hard time splitting that and thinking I can only do one or the other. You were able to divide and probably had other interests as well.
Yes.
That you were able to accomplish because of your really being driven by your goals.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When you believe in something so hard, but that the key to going to the next levels in this society, you have to have a great education, that makes all the difference, because that's what corporations look for. That's what society looks for, the stick-to-itness. Are you going to stick to a plan? Do you have a plan? Do you have a purpose? So that was important to me, even as a youngster. And that's something that my mom and dad instilled in me as a little boy.
One of the other things I was going to ask you, and this was already showing in your story to this point, Mr. Lambert kind of helping you, giving you some good counsel. One of the things, as you began to compete professionally, and as you get to the level of starting to compete on the Mr. Olympia level, you didn't do that alone either. And not only did you have trainers who helped you, but from some of the things I've heard you say, it's almost like as you are competing with some of the other top professional bodybuilders, there's this community of I won't say, I don't know if I would say helping or just allowing each other to learn from each other. Talk a little bit about the community of the bodybuilders that I've heard you talk about with such respect and friendship. And I'm sure, again, I want to defeat you. I want to do everything I can to beat you in this, but you guys are, there's a community behind that. Talk a little bit about that as you're competing.
Yes, yes, it is, man. And it's very important. And it's a beautiful thing. You know, when I lived in California, of course, Joe Weider had, you know, as he brought Arnold from Germany to Austria, in California, he did the same thing for me. After that, won the NPC Nationals and then IFBB World Championship. He flew me out to California and said, Lee, I would love to have you come and train under me here in California. And then he said to me, he said, Lee, if there's a young lady that you're crazy about, I said, matter of fact, sir, it is. He said, well, listen, a young man needs stability in his life real early because you're in California. Things can go crazy out here. So it's my advice that you bring her with you. I would make sure she have a job at the Weider Center when she gets here. And so that's my wife now for 41 years, Shirley. She was my second grade sweetheart. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my whole life. But it is amazing when I returned home from California and I told her about it, I said, baby, you know, I got a chance to be contracted under Mr. Joe Weider and go to California. I said, I don't know what's out there. If you want me to send for you later, once I get established, I'll do that. And she looked at me and said, when are we going?
She had the suitcase on the bed.
Suitcase
She
ready
was
to go.
ready to pack it up.
It is. And I met with her mom. I told her mother, I said, you know, I love Shirley. I really respect her. I want to honor her. I'm not going to, you know, back in the day, we say shack. That's living with somebody and you're not married to them. You know, I was raised differently to respect and honor a woman. You know, I'm not saying that's dishonoring a woman. I'm not saying what other people do and what they think, but it's the way I was raised.
Yeah.
So I met with her mom. I said, I want to marry Shirley. I want her to go to California with me. And I'm not going to live a lifestyle that's not pleasing to you or not pleasing to God. So, and I told her mom that. She said, well, Lee, will you just give me a few weeks to plan a great wedding? I said, yes, ma'am. No problem. So anyway, here we are. You know, we took off to California. And once we got there, it was some of the athletes I had met as I trained for the NPC National to one of those different shows. One of my top buddies was Mike Christian. So here I am in California. I never rode a bus before. So he had to show me how to get on the bus, where to go find my food. He had to show me, you know, where to live, accommodations, all of that. Yeah. So we became great friends, not just Mike. Then you had other people like Albert Beckles. Albert was probably 30 years my senior. So he helped me in a lot of ways, showing me how to prep for shows and that sort of thing. And then you had people like Arnold. I never will forget my first Olympia show. I entered, I placed third. And I'm sitting there, I got the blues, you know. Listen, I had won everything. I won the NPC Nationals, the Teenage America, the Junior America, the IFBB World Championship, first time around. I've never lost. I placed third in the first Mr. Olympia. I'm sitting there, I got the blues. Arnold walks over and said, Lee, you look great, incredible physique. He said, but Lee, your posing routine stinks. You cannot walk on the stage with these other professionals with that type of posing routine. So listen, once we get back to California, because the show was held in Germany, once we get back to California, I want to introduce you to my posing coach. Once she works with you and get that posing down, nobody will be able to stop you. And I was there and there's always met with her, and that's saying, you know, the rest is history. Wow. But he reached out to help a young man, a young athlete. Arnold didn't have to do that.
How many times had Arnold won by the time he says?
Arnold had won 6 in a row.
Right. So he had one more to go.
And came back and won a 7th one after, you know, we started to promote Conan the Barbarian. He went ahead and did a show then because he was in great shape. And so here I am, a youngster, and it's amazing. after I eclipsed his record, he said to me, you know, in the interview, I think it was on the NBC, he said, if anybody deserved to break the record, it's Lee Haney.
How about that?
Although it hurt him, he said,
Yeah.
when we had this show, he said, that doggone Lee.
Yeah.
He broke my record.
Or he could have said, hey, it was because of me
Exactly.
introducing you to the right people.
That's right.
When did you know that you were in the club? Because you got to be in it. There's people that are in gyms all over the Los Angeles area, from the San Fernando Valley and Muscle Beach and everywhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
But you were in the club because of Joe, I would imagine. Joe and Betty Weeder. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you have to earn it.
You have to
But
earn
once
it.
you're in that club, there's a little group, and that you got to be special to get in it in order to be in the club. Otherwise, you're outside the club. And I'm just talking about the elites now,
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are on the stages and the ones that are talking about different things. Hey, you got to work on your calves a little bit. Hey,
That's right.
get your posing right, and
Mm-hmm.
where you were a trusted part of that.
Yeah. You know, and I think Arnold wanted to see where my level of maturity was and my level of humility. Because, you know, sometimes as athletes, you become too big for your britches. You think that, well, who is this to tell me I'm Mr. this and I'm Mr. that? But I really feel in my heart that he was somewhat testing me too. So, okay, you be in my office, I'll introduce you to my posing coach, and then you can take it from there. And I made sure that I was in this office. And because of that,
On time.
on time,
Yeah.
it took me to a whole nother level. And then, of course, you had Joe Weeder, who brought Arnold over. Joe worked with me tirelessly day after day on my posing. Lee, you need to tighten the waist up. You know, you have to stand this particular way. He worked my tail off several times.
Your back is your feature. Show your back. You know, work on this a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Get your delts and your calves and your forearms.
Yep.
You know, all those little things, right?
How you stand, all of that, you know, it made a huge difference. Presenting, he said, Lee, make sure you smile when you hit the stage. He said, all of that's important. Now, I'll tell you something else about Joe Weeder that I was really taken by his humility. You know, he really loved his athletes. You know, he loved everybody. Everybody have their own personal story about Joe. I never will forget, he took me out for lunch on this particular day after we had finished working out, not lifting weights, but posing. He man, when you hit his office, you pose your tail off until you got it right.
Yep.
And here we are at the restaurant. All of a sudden, I get cramps in both of my quads, both of my thighs at the same time. This is a nice restaurant.
Yeah, you're buckled over.
Joe stops, gets down on his knees, and start massaging my legs in front of everybody. That totally blew my mind. Joe Weeder making sure that his athlete, you know, and humility, was willing to do that and didn't care who was looking. That really gave me a whole another level of respect for Mr. Weeder. He was an incredible man.
It takes a village. It takes a community. The bodybuilding community is a tight knit one. I believe Mike has pulled up. Let's relive a little bit of what Arnold had to say about Lee Haney.
Throughout the last 10 years of bodybuilding, I always was saying to myself, I hope no one breaks my record. And every year he was getting closer and closer to this thing. I say, I think this guy is going to go after my record. And then I said to myself, well, now usually guys don't hang around that long. He probably is going to retire after the 6th Mr. Olympia title, you know, maybe become a big gym owner, own around 20 clubs. I wanted to finance his club so he gets away from the competitive scene and all those things. And then all of a sudden, there it happened. You know, there was the big build-up that Lee Haney's going to break Arnold's record and all those things. And after he did it, and he won the 7th Mr. Olympia title, I felt great about it. I honestly can say that. Because no one that deserves it more than Lee, because he has paid his dues. He's a great gentleman. He's a great athlete, a good competitor, and fair. And he represents the sport so well that I only heard the best about him, you know. And he's a very dear friend of mine.
And then after that, you won your 8th.
After that, I won the 8th.
So I want to
Wow.
I want to transition a little bit and talk after your pro career. I read online, and whether you said it this way or not, I'm not sure, but you're at the age of 31, 32. You've won 8 straight Mr. Olympia titles, and basically it was a little bit of like, I've done everything I can do in this part of the sport, and there were new challenges to tackle.
Right.
So talk a little bit, and there are a lot of wonderful twists and turns in your journey. There are television shows you've done and businesses and nonprofits and things like that. How do you transition? Is it that you take the same discipline and you take the same mindset and now you're just applying them to different things, much like you did with going to school and starting to become a professional bodybuilder? Is it just that you're dividing and conquering? Talk about that transition in your life.
Yeah, it is a similar mindset, you know. And I was excited after I won the 8th Miss Olympia and said, okay, that's it. It's time to write a new chapter, to use this discipline and this dedication. Let's chart new waters. And that's when I set out to, you know, to get more involved in business things. Not that I hadn't been, because even as Mr. Olympia, I had my own products, you know, t-shirt sales, all types of things, photos, you know, touring. I went to over 30 different countries. You know, me and my wife spent all of the money, most of the money. We sell t-shirts. She said, this is my shopping money. So anyway, we had such great times doing that.
It was a family business.
It was a family business.
Right.
It was her business. So anyway, with that, man, you know, I said, okay, let's use the success in other areas. So I had my several fitness centers. One in particular, we had the Animal Kingdom, which was located in Atlanta, in the city. It was, matter of fact, we had the boss Bruce Springsteen trained there. We had Hulk Hogan shoot a movie, No Holds Barred. There are fight scenes. So I started to use my energies in gym business. And then, of course, we did what was called the World Class Fitness Center, which was with the city of Atlanta under Mayor Maynard Jackson, and which served as a wellness center for city of Atlanta employees, as well as being open to the general public. Then, of course, we did another fitness center in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Then we had another one called Busybodies. So I was in that particular business. And I worked with some of the, I guess, the founding fathers of the health club business, European Health Spa, you know, Ron Himmelgarten, the racing team. Matter of fact, Mr. Himmelgarten is still part of the Lee Haney Games, a huge part. So he supported us all of these years. So I got some incredible friends as part of that. So my staff and myself learned from the best, you know, Bob Rice of Rice Stadium in Utah. So these are very good friends of mine. From there, we then began my own product line, Lee Haney Nutrition, in which I have one of the products, my leading products, called a detox program, which can deliver the bloodstream, urinary system, and the colon. It sort of restarts the system of the body, just like changing oil in the filter in your car. You have to do that every so often to the body.
Yep, got to clean it out, right?
You got to clean it out. Most people say, okay, when the last time would you drive your car 20 years and never change oil in the filter? Of course I wouldn't. Well, guess what? If you never detox your system, you know, then you're going to be in trouble eventually. So that's one of my leading products. So that's Lee Haney Nutrition. And then, of course, I started what is called the International Association of Fitness Science. That is a certification organization for people who want to become personal trainers. And so mine is different because we are applied science. And I can say applied because I've been there, done that. I've trained Evander Holyfield. When Evander wanted to go from cruiserweight to heavyweight, guess what? That was me.
Yep.
Gary Sheffield. When Gary's shoulders was all screwed up from some knucklehead trainer having him trying to lift the world, he came to me. I trained Gary. I think he signed a $50 million contract.
There's a different discipline that you would have for a baseball player than what you would have for a fighter, right? And people sometimes don't know that. They read the magazine, they go, oh, I want to have big shoulders, but no, Gary needs to have elongated muscles. Yeah,
that's right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, please.
Yeah. So we call it functional training.
Yeah.
See,
based on what you need.
You hit it right on the nail. Based on what you need. You know, Evander did what is called ballistic type of training because he needed to be what?
Explosive. Yes, absolutely.
As he put on the weight, he needed to be able to
continue to be fast.
To be fast with the weight. So we use a plyo type of weight training. Then we had to make sure we fed him about 6 times a day.
Yeah.
You know, so all of that was important. Then, of course, I've trained Shannon Sharp. You know, I worked with Shannon before too. So So my career has allowed me to Steve Harvey. I've trained Steve for about 10 years. So my career has allowed me to expand to all these different areas. So when you talk about health and fitness, it encompasses the entire civilization, period.
Yep.
Everybody wants to feel good. They want to look good. They want to be functional. So I'm in a perfect profession, so I'm able to transcend from where I was on the stage to now, helping the general population.
And Lee, you also understand the discipline where someone says, you know what, I want to eat that. And you go, no, you can't. Have you noticed also, you were born in 1959. When I was younger, I'm a 63, so you're a class of what, 77, 78?
78.
78.
Yes.
People used to only eat at McDonald's maybe once for a very long time.
Right.
I imagine you have the ability just to look at something, let alone taste it, and say, there's too many chemicals in this food right here. There's a lot of plastics and stuff that comes in plastic bags, where you have to discipline to not eat that kind of stuff. Do you go over that as well with people that you're training?
Oh, no doubt about it. That's nutrition is 75%. If you always tell people, listen, if you eat dead food, you're going to be a dead person. Whatever you put in your mouth, you have to think about it ahead of time. Is this going to allow my body to rebuild, to rejuvenate? Is it going to help me with my daily function? All of that you have to think about.
But Lee, it tastes so good. It's so
that's
good.
The problem. You can train your taste buds for whatever you want them to
Yes,
like or not.
And your brain will gladly apply that to satisfaction and enjoyment, right?
That's right. But in the long term, you want to feel good. You want to be functional. I like to call it age management. And when a child first comes into the world, the parent the parents are, okay, make sure they, getting the right milk, the vegetables and the fruit and those kinds of things so that his cells will repair and they'll feel good and be healthy. So that should carry on into adulthood. But as we get busy as adults, we don't take out time to eat properly. We just grab whatever these quick trips. And I see these hot dogs rolling out. That's death.
Yeah.
I look at it as death. When I look at sodas, I look at it as death. It doesn't repair, rebuild anything. It kills, it destroys. That's why half of America is sick. I just got back from Italy. I was there for 4 days. It was my 4th, 5th trip to Italy. And you just look at the population of people. I only saw 2 guys that were heavy the whole time I was there, But when I got to the airport, I knew who the Americans were, but in the end, a lot is not because of our own fault. It's because of what's being allowed to be put in our food.
I agree.
Things here is illegal in other countries.
They will not put it in.
And so
they won't accept the food.
They won't accept it.
And that leads to your detox as well, right? There's a way that you can get healthy if you want to. There's a desire that needs to be, because a lot of people know, I'd rather eat the food that tastes good. Yeah, but that's how you look. Look at yourself.
That's right.
Your waist should be 34 and it's 44.
Exactly. And one of the things I recently started, matter of fact, we're going to kick it off this week. It's a 50+ men's health link. They can go to leehaney.com. And for guys who, it's a lot of guys that need it. I work with a lot of men 50 and older right now that's are in need, because as you start to age, particularly men, you start to put on a lot of body fat, then the body start producing estrogen. When it starts to do that, which that is a feminizing hormone, when it starts to do that, our desire, particularly sexual desire, starts to wane. This thing, mama is looking at you sideways. Okay, big boy, what we gonna do here? So anyway, I've developed a program to help men with those situations. A lot of times it can be fixed with nutrition and training. You don't have to train till your tongue is hanging out of the side of your mouth.
But start walking.
Start walking. Do some weight. You got to do weight training, because the deal is when you walk, you're burning calories only when you walk. But once you establish a good base of muscle, your body's burning calories when you're sitting still. That's what you want, that muscle, the fat burning muscle. That's the key to dropping body fat. No muscle, you're not going to lose body fat. Just like when you see people on Ozempic, it says, okay, I lost weight, but guess what? Was it muscle Was it fat or was it water?
Yeah.
When you lose your muscle, you lose your metabolism. You lose your metabolism, that's it. You're a sagging piece of meat and bone. And then as far as you recapturing your metabolism, chances are it won't happen.
Lee, what are the biggest obstacles for most men in their independence of saying, I don't need any help, for them to come onto you or site and learn a little bit more about how to get healthy and how to get things straight?
You said obstacle?
Yes, because most men will, I'm fine, I don't need any help, but we do.
Or I'm beyond hope. That's another one. It's been too long.
Well, the thing is, once I start talking to men, and I put it to them like this: when you take me out of the equation, what happens to my wife? What happened to my kids? What happened to my grandchildren? We are there as protectors and providers for our families.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remain healthy. That's our job, to be healthy, so that we can live out the mission that we've been called to do, to protect and provide. So if we don't have our health, we can't do that. So when I put it to most men in that way, they say, you know what? That's true.
Yep.
You know, I don't have a choice. This is what I got to do if I'm a real man.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
We're speaking with Lee Haney. You can go to leehaney.com and you can order the books he's written. Apparently there's a new program that's about to launch as we're recording this. For if you're over 50 plus, you can learn about detoxing. You can read about his career. You can basically look at all those different things. It is my job as the slightly annoying host of this show to bring us back to the original topic and the main reason that you're here. But I do want to, before I do that, everybody needs to go to leehaney.com if you want to get healthier. And you want to hear some truth, because he has dropped a lot of truth in this studio and it is good truth to hear. But the other truth we want to talk about is the Lee Haney Games, leehaneygames.com, where you can get your tickets November 2nd, the 10th anniversary. So I just kind of want to bring it back to that. And I want to say, Lee, as someone who competed professionally in bodybuilding, as someone who has built all these different businesses and is fulfilling his mission day in, day out, probably not perfectly, but keeping short accounts and getting back on track. What excites you the most about watching the next generation do what you did? What excites you the most about the current state of bodybuilding competition that you get to be a part of and kind of lead?
Well, you know, I love the fact that it impacts the entire general public. You know, years ago, it was thought to be taboo to lift weights. You know, so, well, you become muscle bound and this and that. Everybody lifts weights now. Everybody walks now. You know, I just talked to one of the receptionists there, the Western next door to us, and they have a walking wellness class that they do. I think on Wednesdays, they was telling me, I was blown away by that. That's fantastic. You know, so these are the benefits of what we do in the world of bodybuilding. There's coaches, there's certified trainers, that's all over the United States now, all over the world, and it is helping people.
And I think your story is one that you participated in bodybuilding, but it started with that going to college and getting your education. And you talk about what you got your degree in, but look at all the other things you've educated yourself about and applied science and taught. As you're sitting there talking, one of the long running jokes we have on our show is I wish we could find people who are passionate about what they do. So the passion comes through so clearly, but it's not just the passion, it's the knowledge behind the passion. Are you seeing now you've had a lifetime of learning about things like applied science. Are you seeing that in the younger generation where they're getting the knowledge and they're getting the understanding of I got to do more than just lift weights? Are you seeing that? Are you seeing a deeper base of knowledge? Are you seeing the right type of knowledge? Are you seeing a lot of wisdom around the bodybuilding world today?
Well, it's pros and cons. Yeah. One of the most dangerous things now is the internet, because you get a lot of wrong information there. A lot of young bodybuilders, you know, let's say we have the Mr. Olympia competitions happening this weekend. I'll be there along with some of the former Mr. Olympia champions. This is the 60th year anniversary. So a lot of us are being brought in to celebrate that. But some of the athletes that's competing in Mr. Olympia injured. Several of them had to drop out because of injuries. the philosophy of train to stimulate, don't annihilate. A lot of them haven't quite gotten it because a lot of athletes get into ego training. They live too heavy.
Yeah.
The systems are out of whack, particularly on that professional and those on the upper tier of the amateur level. They're trying to get there so fast. To become a Mr. Olympia, it takes time. It just doesn't happen overnight. And this generation, whereby when I came through the Arnold generation, Robbie Robertson, Frank Zane, we always talked about the mind and the muscle connection. It wasn't about lifting the world. You have to feel the weight, the muscle connecting with the weight, not lifting heavy weight and trying to connect the muscle with it. As a result, a lot of bodybuilders got injured. One of the guys who was going after my record during needs a hip replacement. Then he tore his tricep off the bone. He used extremely heavy weight. Ronnie Coleman, who tied my record, Ronnie had 14 back surgeries, double hip replacement, because of doing 800-pound squats. Nobody, maybe Franco would do something like that, but Franco was shorter. His body could withstand that type of poundage, but a taller guy can't do that. So the philosophies that has been given to these younger athletes is somewhat flawed. But that's why I have the International Association of Fitness Science to teach them the right way. As a matter of fact, here this summer, June, the last weekend in June, we'll be launching what will be called the Lee Haney Summer Games, which we're going to have novice, teenage, novice, first timers. We're going to create a whole training system for them to follow through on to get them ready and prep for competitions the right way.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say what you just did, is because when I started lifting weights for football in high school, there were folks that were debating back and forth. And some of the bodybuilding expertise, go to 300, go 325, go 350, and you may not be strong enough to support that weight at that point in your life, where others might say, do 185 for 10 reps and stay healthy. Well, the critique was that they're not as strong as the power lifters. Well, but I look pretty stinking good, don't I? So my results, and I'm not injured, or at least in many respects, I can compete any day. Yeah, sometimes you strain your hamstring or something like that, but there's, again, different applied science to different people. There's no wrong answer unless you want it to be, but you can find the right answer because it exists for you, the answer for you. And you get to help do that. Did the Presidential Council for Physical Fitness, did that help set a different standard for you in terms of your responsibility and how you train people and let people know about what good advice is out there?
Yes, it did, particularly with the young people, giving them the correct information concerning nutrition, concerning exercise. Years ago, they had that presidential award, in which I won the gold certificate, even there as a teenager. So this helps a lot to bring them up in the right way of having an understanding of exercise, the right exercise. See, and again, it goes back to functionality. What is the function? If you're not a power lifter, you don't need to train like a power lifter. Even in football, there's weird stuff like a bench press where you don't lay on your back and push anybody.
Never. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then squatting 800 pounds for what? You're not going to put a guy on your back and squat him for 800 pounds. So that doesn't make sense either. So there need to be a rethinking. And that's why today's strength coaches think on a different level now. They think on a different level and use more science that makes sense. So they had to pull that in. So that's where we are now, in trying to educate and get the word out there concerning that. That's what my job is. That's why I created my certification program. I can have as Evander Holyfield, he was able to go from 192 up to 214 pounds in a matter of 8 weeks. It didn't slow him down. It made him even more powerful, even more explosive. Then we gave him what was called anaerobic threshold training, where traditional boxing, you run 5 miles or 10 miles. But you're not going to run 10 miles in the ring. You have to put out for 3 minutes, but your heart is about to jump out of your chest. You may get 200 beats.
Yep.
And then you have to be able to recover to 130 for
Quickly.
the next round.
Yep, and do it again.
So
Yep.
that's functionality.
Listen, if anyone listening, first of all, if anyone listening wants to see a great example of professional bodybuilding and what the results can be, they need to come to the Lee Haney Games November 2nd here at the Gas South District Convention Center. They can go to leehaneygames.com to buy their tickets, and then you can come and enjoy a great day, meet some great vendors, and if they are also want to go down their wellness journey, their health journey, their applied functional fitness journey, they need to start at leehaney.com. They need to find the right community they can trust that's giving them good, solid, common sense information. I'm sitting here across from you as someone who does not have a lot of knowledge in that area, and my body shows it. But I will say that I'm sitting here listening to you and I go, and everything he's saying, there's so much common sense behind it. And you mentioned the internet. I think one of the best thing of the internet is anything. There's so much information that you can find. The worst thing in the internet is there is so much wrong information that you can find. And how do you tell the difference, right? You need someone who's done it in a lifetime. You need someone who's created a community around him of trusted counselors and people that know a lot of things and has applied science. So I think I've given everything else, but why don't you give you have you have some Instagram, you have some other social media stuff. How can people follow you and keep up with all the good work that you're doing and learn more about the different programs you offer?
Well, when they go to leehaney.com, we have all of the information there, concerning all the different things I'm involved in. And they can contact me there too. When someone said, well, Lee, I need some help, my email is there. They can send it out to me. They get a personal phone call from me.
How about that?
I handle a lot of this myself. I don't just have a staff person to do that.
Do you have favorites? Like if I were from Spartanburg, would you answer my call a little bit quicker?
Most certainly I will.
Absolutely.
See, an honest man too. He tells you warts and all, and just, yeah, absolutely. You get a little preferential treatment. So Lee Haney, thank you so much for being here. I want to encourage everybody to go to leehaney.com. Also go to leehaneygames.com. Again, come to the event on November 2nd. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to meeting all the beautiful people here in the Gwinnett area. And this is going to be a first-class event. Guys, make sure you come.
Absolutely. 10th anniversary of the Lee Haney Games. Harper, thank you so much for being here. Man, fantastic guest, fantastic interview.
Yeah, they say you never want to meet your heroes because they tend to disappoint, and that certainly did not happen today. Lee is he's the man.
It happened when I met our producer Mike, but it did not happen today when I met Lee Haney. I want to thank Mike Salmon for running the Gwinnett studio of Business Radio X, being a great producer today. I want to thank Dan Braverman for running the cameras, and also, by the way, I know we stopped the contest, but I did guess who was going to do the intro.
Yeah, you were on it today.
It was like last second. And so thanks to Amanda for doing the intro.
Hey, what does that sound mean right there?
That means Mike's ready to go. For our producer, Mike, and for Dan, and for Harper, and for our guest, Lee Haney, this is your slightly annoying host, Stephen Julian, saying, we will catch you next time on Gwinnett Business Radio.